Hey everyone, this is Nic LaRue from FilmSnobbery. I am here in Valdosta, Georgia at the South Georgia Film Festival. Beautiful campus, beautiful day. It's actually, I thought it was going to rain more, but we've been lucky so far, a little humid. But we have seen some good films, we have talked to some great people, and I have another one in front of me right now. Who are you and what are you doing here today?
Hello, I'm Cathy Parker, and my organization is called PhilanthroFilms. One of those tongue twisters, sort of like film snobbery, okay? But the nonprofit that I oversee, PhilanthroFilms, is all about bringing up the workforce in film and attracting it to the area. And so I'm here just volunteering. I brought my staff, and we're just volunteering, helping with the South Georgia Film Festival.
That's fantastic. What are some of the challenges of filming in Georgia? I mean, everyone knows that Atlanta is this huge film hub, both for the mainstream industry, but I've had a lot of friends in the independent film industry also come down to Atlanta for all the opportunities that are up here and stuff like that. What are some of the challenges that you folks face that maybe some people aren't aware of?
Okay. Well, you're right. Atlanta is definitely, where the film is going on. And I think some of the studies showed that about 90% of the films that were filmed in the state of Georgia that qualified for the tax incentive, so productions 500,000 and above, 90% took place in the metropolitan Atlanta area. So that brings its own set of challenges with, I think, pre-pandemic studio space. It was up to almost a year and a half waiting list, to be even to have studio space available. So we're in South Georgia. So we're like 4 hours from Atlanta. So that presents its own challenges as well of not being around crew and not having all the multiple businesses for your ancillary services. So guess what? It gives us a tremendous opportunity to raise up the workforce. We need jobs. We need jobs in film. The tax incentive is good for the whole state. So we need to take advantage of that. So educating people more on the industry and that it is an industry that is not just, when you talk about film sometimes to people outside of that metropolitan Atlanta area that have not seen it go on, and you talk about film, they immediately think directors, actors, producers. They don't know that most of your staff is going to be crew based, going to be labor people, tradesmen. They don't understand that. So letting them see that, and so we've done some events where we'll do like a live film set and invite people to come out and see. So they see, oh wow, there's a mechanic on set, and oh wow, there's all these background actors, and oh wow, there's people that food stylists, and just oh wow, there's caterers, and they start to see all those things. So it helps them understand that this is a business that is not just going to be about making that particular film, but it's going to have resources from all these other ancillary businesses like the local hardware store and your local dry cleaner, and on and on and on.
And that's actually something we were talking a little bit off mic was the idea that they are there's a hospitality industry that has to support this too, which is also good for whether it's a tax based type of situation or just using local businesses. If you have crew that you're putting up in a hotel, you have people that need to eat, not just craft services on the set, but maybe you want to take people out for a meal or have a good breakfast or a coffee shop or something like that. Where is PhilanthroFilms based out of?
Okay, we are located actually in Brooks County, Quitman, Georgia, which is right on the border of, if you look at the state of Georgia and you go straight down the middle, very bottom, right before you get to Florida, you'll hit right through there. So we're between Thomasville and Valdosta, Georgia. Those are two cities that people know a lot more. But we are a very small community, but we have an area around us that is quite expansive with film that has been going on for quite some time now. And so we are trying to focus on bringing up the whole region. We're trying to think regionally when we talk about things. We call everything South Georgia. So instead of just the city equipment or the county that we're in, because it's going to take all of us. We're seeing that more and more as we've been around the state and seeing that the the cities and communities on the coast. They have their Coastal Film Alliance, and we're just seeing that more and more and more, that in these smaller communities, you've got to band together, your resources together, and have everyone on the same page so that you can support this industry, because we need these jobs. We need these jobs for our citizens, and we need the production. So it's been a learning process as we have learned to educate the public in that this can be a very positive thing. And it's been a rewarding process with FilmSnobbery to see that maybe people that thought they never could pursue their dreams unless they moved, to metropolitan Atlanta or to LA or to New York or somewhere where film in their mind was more prevalent, but they can stay in their hometowns and they can pursue these passions, and plus have second careers. And we have a lot of agriculture in our area, and we've had a lot of people that have worked on our films that are so excited because they can pick and choose productions that they want to work on during the off seasons and things like that, and still help on their family farms and still be able to do that. And then people even in their second careers that are seeing that, oh, this is something that I can pursue.
And one thing I really appreciate about this too is from a governmental perspective, local city government as well as state government, even if a politician may not be particularly interested in the arts, let's say. I mean, some of them will say they are and they're giving speeches or whatever, but when you look at voting records and stuff like that, it's hard to deny. It's easier to deny the art aspect of it. Oh, do you want to make your little movies or whatever, right? But it's much harder to deny, again, the tradespeople, the agricultural, the travel and tourism, the other metrics of which success in a state is based on, and voting records often reflect. So I think that is bringing some of those things to the forefront in terms of conversation is a great idea as well. I would love to know where is your story in getting into the film industry? Where do you come from? Where did you get started with this?
Okay, well, I absolutely had no background in film, but what I did have is I had a story that made national news, and I started having producers come to talk to me about producing a film based on my story. And it was a philanthropic story that I was living in Jacksonville, Florida. My family was, and we put a football field in the most northern part of Alaska. So just one of those crazy, bigger than life stories. And I really didn't know anything about film. So, but what I did know is that I had dealt with people, Native American people from the most northern part of Alaska, who trusted me, and I wanted their story told the right way. And so I would ask questions like, do I have any say-so? If I sign this contract, do I have any say-so about this film? And most of the time it was, no, you really don't, And so, because those were all studios that were coming in and pursuing. And so as time went on and I met an independent film producer, and I asked that question, can I have a say-so on the story? She says, yes. In fact, we're going to need, you to be involved with helping us tell this story. I was like, okay, now this is more what, but the caveat to that was, but you got to raise money, and I'm like, okay, here we go again. But that independent film, I saw that, and I ran into more people that, like me, were in that same situation of having stories that were wonderful stories, they're inspirational stories that needed to be told, but they needed to have that avenue to be able to do that. And so moving back to Georgia, my hometown, was approached by some of the local governments, and how can you help us? We're missing out on opportunities in the southern part of the state because we don't know what to do. And I was responded with, well, I really can't, I don't know a lot about film, but I know someone who does, my producer. So I spoke to her about our area, and I said, would you ever consider, coming and putting an office in South Georgia? And she said, well, actually, Georgia is very, it's the hotbed, so I need to, it's a great decision for our investors. And so our idea was just going to put a little satellite office here, but one thing led to another, and we ended up forming a company that I would oversee because my background was in philanthropy, and then married with her expertise in the whole film industry. So we came up with that crazy word that people have trouble saying, PhilanthroFilms, and we started focusing on bringing film to the area of the southern part of the state, and also to bringing up the workforce so that we can have sustainable films and going on one after the other. Because if you are getting a workforce more than 60 miles from around you, and Atlanta is definitely more than that, from us, from where we are, then you're having to pay a lot more because you've got your per diem, you've got your hotels, you've got everything that you have to pay for. And so, and we need those jobs, and we're always going to have to be bringing in some experts and those kind of things, and from all over the state, and we're fine with that. I think that's good for our hotels and all our different things that we'll be doing. But you also want to have local trained crew. So we started really working with the local schools, the high schools, and the universities and the technical schools, in hopes that one day we could attract the Georgia Film Academy, because Georgia is the only state that has this quick get-to-work program called the Georgia Film Academy that works through your technical schools and your university systems in getting a 3-semester certification to be able to work on film in the film industry. And so we just worked really hard at it, and we kept doing camps and all kinds of things, and then finally got a partnership with the Georgia Film Academy. So we'll be starting that, and we're building buildings, and one thing's led to another. We're even doing our own purpose-built studio campus.
I love this because this whole thing started with I had a story.
Yep.
And I find that of every filmmaker I speak to, or everyone has, I had a story I wanted to tell, and then that story builds on itself until, in your case, it's literally building itself into physical manifestations of these things, as well as the films and stuff like that. I think that's fantastic. When we talk about philanthropy, and your background of it, what exactly are some of the misconceptions of what philanthropy is? Some people might look at it as it's just people donating money and giving this away, giving that away, whatever, without expectation of whatever. Is that really kind of the truth of what things are? What is philanthropy, both to you and your experiences a little bit with it, and in terms of, it doesn't even have to be related necessarily to the film industry, but I try to look at it through the lens of like, well, what can filmmakers learn about this, about as they're looking for money, whether it's from philanthropists or whether it's investors or whether anything like that.
Well, I do look at it a lot differently than some people because I've worked in the industry for several years. But the thing that I also know is I love giving, and I love building something that's going to outlive me. Yeah. And there are a lot of people like that they want to be a part of things that are bigger than themselves, and they want to leave legacies. And so it's just as much about the donor as it is about whatever project you're trying to fund, because you are partnering. You are partnering together to be able to build legacy, for these people that can make a difference in their community. And I think with film, and it is hard sometimes for people to put their head around it, because they're like, well, you don't want to pay taxes, da-da-da-da-da. And I'm like, no, that's not why we do this. Yeah. We do this so that people can come along beside us and help us, and we can help them by giving them, a tax write-off for themselves. But they can come along and partner with us, and we need partnerships. We can't do it by ourselves. Yeah. And so being able to do those partnerships through philanthropy and being able to bring up the industry. When you talk about having a museum or something like that, people understand, okay, yeah, that is a charity you can give to. So it's not any different than that with having something that supports film, because it is a work of art. It is a way to grow your community economically, educationally, so many different ways. And so that is how I try to explain it to people, and then they seem to be able to get their head around it a little bit better.
Yeah, I think the disconnect really is just when you look at a museum or something like that. There's this physical building, physical thing versus a film, which is really lives more as an idea or as a visual that is not tangible. But people understand that no, like there's hundreds of people that worked on this. Like what you brought to this by giving to this or by taking part in this or partnering with us on this. Even something like their like Film Collaborative used to do like fiscal sponsorships for like you could get insurance. Basically, you're piggybacking off of their insurance, but you're basically you're getting insurance for your production. That's huge. That's thousands of dollars for a film or a filmmaker to now not have to go out and raise. Every little bit kind of does moves the chains a little bit on that. So that's it's absolutely vital and important. But now being able to have like the physical space to be able to launch things from or whatever, that I also feel like is going to make all the difference, especially because it's not directly in Atlanta or it's in these areas that people it'll be far more accessible. And I think just seeing things like that gives people ideas. And yeah, we talked a little bit about like you can see the light turn on, and that's a beautiful moment when you see that happen. So far in your experiences, I mean, do you get approached a lot by filmmakers to be like, hey, what can we do to either help or how can we utilize your services or what FilmSnobbery is doing?
Yeah, sometimes with filmmakers, they want to tell your story, and I have to stop them and say, "You're telling the wrong person because I'm not a filmmaker," But giving them space, and I think you and I talked about this a little bit earlier. When you give people a seat at the table, you make them feel important, you make them feel welcome. That goes a long way. You give them space to create. We actually started our first office in a town that was pretty much, the downtown was dead. Very common in a lot of these older downtown areas that since industries moved out of the community, and so there were a lot of old buildings that were not occupied. And so we started, and it was sort of like who we were. We would take things. In fact, even with our area, it was just so poor and so broken. There were times when I even said to Honey Corngold, the producer who moved her company down, I was nervous about her doing that because I told her, I said, it's really broken. This town is so broken. And she said, well, where else to tell redeeming stories than a place that needs to be redeemed? So we started with that sort of mentality of let's take these old buildings that once had life in them and let them tell their stories. And so we would try to find out the history, of why they were made in the first place, why they were built in the first place, and try to restore a lot of that. And one of the things that I loved is I would buy chairs. I would go, I'm a big thrift store person, tons. I mean, I love it. I love to go to thrift stores. And I would just buy dozens and dozens of chairs to the point of where our bookkeeper said, Cathy, you cannot buy any more chairs, but put me on restriction. But the thing about buying chairs is that I knew that was people. We'd have people in those chairs. So we bought a lot of everything we have, like I said, from thrift stores, and we would just buy desks and chairs and desks and chairs, and we made room. We made room for people. And so the people that would come through our town, stop, and, be working from out of town or maybe had a home office. We started a coffee shop next to us so that it stayed open all day, where people could use the Wi-Fi and just come and sit and collaborate. But we've shared office space, and we've just made people feel welcome. But when you do that, and especially when you're dealing with creatives, and we're surrounded by these young creatives, just all these, they just come. They just show up, some of them don't leave, and I've actually hired several of them because I was like, okay, you're going to be here, so I might as well hire you. So I've hired a lot of these young creatives, and just to see what happens when people walk in, I mean, I will tell you, we've had grown men just walk in and just start weeping, because they had had a dream, but they let it die because they thought there's no way I can live in, a rural area that doesn't have maybe, you know, the resources that the metropolitan areas have and be able to create or even have anyone that would appreciate what I bring to the table. And for them to see, no, it's here and there's hope. So people would just come in that want to be around that. And then it just sparks, these God given creativity that's in them. And being able to share those ideas and share. So, anyway, it is an inspiring thing to be in our offices and to see what happens on a daily basis.
End up making a documentary just on PhilanthroFilms. There you go. No, I think it's wonderful, and you're absolutely right. I love the just the metaphor and the visual of buying chairs, because you're absolutely right. When you talk about everyone having a seat at the table, they do need somewhere to sit, and I think that so many people feel excluded or from various activities. Filmmaking, some people think it's my people don't understand it, or what I have to say, or they don't care about my story, or I don't have the money, or I don't have the crew, or I don't have whatever I'm too old. I get that a lot. There's a buddy of mine that just launched the Gray List, which is a screenwriting competition for people over the age of 40. And that is fantastic. And so to compete with not really compete, but as an addendum to these other lists that come out, of these wonderful filmmakers with screenplays and stuff like that. But looking at it, the ageism of the industry and stuff like that. So I love the idea of being able to come in, and once you do get that, you will get a what's the word I'm looking for? You'll get this singularity that'll happen where you get enough creatives in one together in one place, and eventually something will come out of that. Either they'll all end up working together making movies, or they'll make each other's movies, or maybe they might go in and do another creative endeavor that is just as valuable to that area. But I also love the idea of things are broken, can they be fixed? Can they be redeemed? That's a wonderful thing as well. And I ran into a similar situation. I was downtown in Birmingham, Alabama. This was years ago now. It might be better. I was in Birmingham, Alabama, right not too long after the economic crash in 2008, 2009. And just walking down there downtown, and everything's just boarded up. Now, the film festival I went to there was fantastic. Also, just like the South Georgia Film Festival here in Valdosta, where we are now. That film festival is great, the Sidewalk Film Festival. And they have absolutely... They're like, we want to do more for the community, and so they started doing community screenings. They started doing all these other wonderful things to kind of keep the Sidewalk name alive all year round, so people would remember it, obviously, when it came time for the big festival, but also to do something year round for the community to kind of distract them from there's some bad stuff happening, but there's also some good stuff happening. We're going to try to bring things back here. When you bring more people back to the area, it brings more people back to the whatever. It was a very similar situation, and again, you're seeing it down in the South here, and where I've driven through, most of Georgia to get here, and I saw, there's some areas that could use a hand up, and I think every state has an area like that, and it could absolutely be uplifted by organizations like your PhilanthroFilms and like yourself, people like yourself that recognize value in things that are maybe not. They see the art in the things that may be a little uglier on the outside, and maybe just got to take the vines down, fix up the front porch, put a chair out, and then that's something new for somebody. I want to thank you real quick. What are some of the other things you would like to accomplish here at the festival?
Okay, well, I love showing our support and bringing our staff and volunteering and helping Jason Brown, that has organized this event for 8 years. Just being making it exciting for our community, and getting the word out and helping him, and just showing support. And then again, like you said, being around these creatives, and listening and hearing their stories and seeing their films and all that. You just you never know what's going to happen, and so that's always an exciting thing to be able to witness this creativity come to life.
Well, I'll say if Film Snobbery or myself can ever be of any assistance to you folks, please don't hesitate to reach out. I hope everyone checks out PhilanthroFilms. Is there a website or something we can go to?
Yes, we have a website, and it is PhilanthroFilms. It's a big word, .org. Or you can even go to, this is a lot easier, filminsouthgeorgia.com. filminsouthgeorgia.com, and that can take you to a lot of our different projects that are going on with studio builds and some of the other organizations that we're affiliated with.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for taking a moment to sit down with me and all that. Thank you.